to another Hi-Fi Jedi review. It's been easily a couple years since the last time I did one of these. I do this for a hobby. I've been busy with corporate life, you know, all sorts of fun with COVID. Here we are, maybe 2 years or so since my last video. So there's a product that's been out for the past year or so that I've really wanted to talk about. There's a lot of reviews out there already, and it's the Wiim Mini and the Wiim Pro. We're going to talk about both today. Again, there's a ton of videos out there already. It's some really great ones by guys like John Darko and others that go into depth. This one is going to be more about a no-nonsense, let's get to the key points, and let's also talk about some of the nuances that Apple users are going to face when they use the Mini or the Pro. These are both quite similar. There's a couple minor differences. We'll get into those in detail. And that's it. So let's get on with the show. So let's take a closer look at the inputs on outputs on the Wiim Mini. And you've got auxiliary in and out, the USB Type-C for power, it's 5 volt, and then a bit of digital out or optical. Buttons on top don't move, but they feel okay. It's a pretty lightweight unit, although I don't think you need to use a doorstop on top of this, as our friend, you-know-who. That always cracks me up a bit. One other thing that's worth noting is that the auxiliary analog input can actually be used as a Wi-Fi transmitter, so you could put in a CD player or a turntable and cast that to other Wiim connected speakers in the house, which is kind of cool. All right, looking at the back of the Wiim Pro, the major differences here is the addition of an Ethernet input, and we'll get into some of those, some of the details about that in a moment, especially for Apple users. This one also has the analog input as full-size RCA connectors. It's got the trigger out. I've never really used that. You can apparently connect that to certain amplifiers to have it automatically turn on or off when you're using your amp. I leave mine on always. And of course, the Wiim Pro has the Chromecast built in, which obviously can't be seen here, and this is the big factor for the Android users. So both the Mini and the Pro have the same built-in DACs, and they're not great, the digital to analog converter. So while that's good if you don't have one on hand, it lets you get up and running without it. But given that the Wiim gets high-resolution lossless, both the Pro and the Mini, in all the major formats, right up to 24:192, which is equivalent to HD or high resolution, whatever you want to call it, including beta level support even for MQA, I'd say that you want to respect those capabilities and feed the signal into something worthy. My suggestion is to do yourself a big favor, and unless you're using this just for podcasts or something not so important, don't care about sound quality, which I'm sure you do, otherwise you wouldn't be listening to the Hi-Fi Jedi. So my suggestion, unless you're using this for podcasts and don't really care that much about the sound quality, then use it as is, and you can use the built-in DAC. But honestly, if you match this up even with something like $100 or $125 shit Modi or like a DAC Magic from Cambridge, 100 or 200, it's going to sound fantastic. And you're probably going to beat a product like a Blue Sound Node, spending a lot less. Now, for those that want less boxes, or you don't want to think about having to get a DAC or matching it, then maybe the Blue Sound Node is the product for you. All in one, you don't have to think about matching it up with something else. But for those that want to experiment and like to try the sound of different DACs, this is really the perfect product. User experience, this is where the fun starts. And this is really what starts separating this little gizmo apart from just about everything else, because it is super easy, and getting either of these to connect initially took about 2 minutes. So when you open the Wiim app, everything is laid out in a nice, simple, uncluttered way that makes it really easy to navigate. It's got all the major services like Amazon, Tidal, Qobuz. Here's the situation with Apple. Unfortunately, Apple hasn't struck any deals with any streaming platforms like the Wiim or Blue Sound or any of these others. And what happens is, when you're using the Wiim, you're at the mercy of having to use Airplay too. Now, While Apple Music can stream up to 24,192, when you're using Airplay, that limits you to 2448, which is standard CD quality. And there's nothing wrong with that. I use it all the time. That's what I use. I don't really care so much about HD tracks, but it's really unfortunate that Apple doesn't have that native implementation like most of the other streaming services that are built in, where you could log in right into the Wiim app. And this was something that I thought about after going to connect the Ethernet cable, which is really a moot point if you are an Apple user, because again, it doesn't mean anything if you have the Ethernet cable plugged into the unit, because the music is playing straight from your phone, so it's not even using the Ethernet cable. But getting back to the user interface, it's absolutely smooth, not glitchy, and super reliable. And again, I think that's really one of the most important, if not the most important, when it comes to streamers, is how easy is this to use, and are people going to use it? And for the Wiim, absolutely flawless. So that about wraps it up for the Wiim Mini and the Wiim Pro. If you like this video, please give me a like. Please subscribe to the channel. If you have any questions, leave it in the comments and I'll do my best to get to it. And again, thanks for watching. Hey guys, for a little extra, I wanted to take a moment to talk about the music. We talk so much about the equipment that we forget about what comes first, and that is the music. So for 2 minutes, I just want to talk about a few albums that I'm listening to lately that I think some of you guys would enjoy. So let's kick it off here with one. I saw these guys open up for Wild Nothing about 4 months ago. Thus Love, the album's called Memorial. It's their only album. It's awesome. These guys are like Billy Idol meets War on Drugs. War on Drugs is another great album that you should listen to, or artist. These guys are incredible, sort of like punk, indie rock, great energy. Check them out. They were actually supposed to play in New York this week, but the drummer apparently blew out his shoulder, so I'm a little upset about that. That was supposed to be tomorrow. And then listen to, I don't have the album right here, We Get Requests. This is a famous jazz album from Oscar Peterson and his trio. This was released in 1964. This was a reissue. The sound quality is incredible. I ordered this from Amazon. My first copy was scratched, which really sucked, so I'm waiting to get another copy. And this is one of those albums you really want on vinyl if you do have a turntable. Again, the sound quality is incredible. The jazz is incredible. And it's good for somebody who's a beginner just getting into jazz, because it's not one of those wild sort of experimental albums or sounding like they're practicing their equipment. I think anybody could like this album. It's great. Sounds like you're in a nice New York jazz club. The sound quality is perfect. Get it. And the last one is M83 Fantasy. M83 is a great indie rock band, sort of indie rock electronica, I would say. And I've been listening to this album for the past week. It just came out on the 17th. And it's awesome. Listen to it. I listen to this when I go running. It's great electronic rock in a very non-cliche sounding way. So 3 great albums. Check those out. I think you'll enjoy it. Cheers.